Das ist die Jacke, die ich während der Flucht
This is the jacket I was wearing as we fled, and I was allowed to keep it when we got into the dinghy.
Als wir ins Schlauchboot eingestiegen waren.
And to an extent, it's also a memory of my first home. It has an emotional meaning for me.
Ich heiße Ryyan Alshebl. Ich bin 29 Jahre alt.
My name's Ryyan Alshebl. I'm 29 years old and originally come from southern Syria. I've lived in Germany for almost 8 years now, in the Calv region, Althengstett to be exact.
In Althengstett.
Life is so crazy. 7 years ago, I was in the refugee shelter, and today I'm the mayor. It's amazing. Fantastic.
He sat in his office and I came in. He said, "Do you think I could stand for mayor?" I don't know if he said of Ostelsheim, but it was obvious.
My first reaction was, Ryyan, forget it. You're too young, too inexperienced, and we weren't sure if Ostelsheim was too conservative.
Why would you choose him? He just migrated here. Others said, you can't vote for the other guy just because he has a house in Ostelsheim. That's not how it works.
It says a lot about the pragmatism of the people here. They were asking, can he do the job? I think it's very legitimate to ask, can someone with such a different cultural background be our mayor?
It's tapped. An election campaign is really hard. It's a major life change, and that's why I'm relieved that today is hopefully the last day of campaigning. There's no one there either. When you go door-to-door canvassing especially, you get to meet people who often don't want to have much to do with you in daily life. Hi, I'm Mr. Alshebl, a candidate for mayor. May I introduce myself briefly?
No, I don't have time now.
And yet, they're still there and you have to confront them. Because that's what the role of mayor is all about. Representing everyone, even people who don't think much of you. Good afternoon. I'm Ryyan Alshebl, candidate for mayor. May I briefly introduce myself? This is my flyer. I'd love to leave it with you. Have you heard about me, my candidacy? Not yet. This street is interesting. Perhaps we can talk to this gentleman here. So the election is on April the 2nd. It's the mayoral election here in Ostelsheim. I'll give you my flyer.
Thanks.
Bye. So let's take a look over here.
Es gab so ein paar Sachen, wo man gesagt hat, ja, da hat man jetzt quasi.
There were a few times where someone who was clearly a right-wing extremist answered the door while canvassing. There was one time, someone who was a supporter of the other candidate made their own poster saying they'd prefer to have a Swabian local for the town.
Und haben hervorgehoben, dass man
But that ended up not being well received here, because people don't actually want to judge a candidate on where they come from, but on their ambition and ability. Because that's how they fulfill the duties of the job. Where he comes from is actually irrelevant.
Womit sein Bürgermeisteramt erfüllt, also die Herkunft ist eigentlich irrelevant.
You shouldn't say you're green so often.
Oh, really?
Here, I mean.
Here it's all about the local mayor elections. Party politics don't play a role.
There are all different people in Ostelsheim and
Not only Greens.
not only Greens.
Exactly.
I'm in
the parents group at the village kindergarten. Since I work as a graphic designer, I offered my help and joined the team as a graphic designer.
And you helped boost our social media presence enormously. You had a plan. We developed a concept for how we would present ourselves on Instagram and Facebook.
So much happens now on social media. It was really exciting to see. And then we started getting responses like, hey, I've got a Facebook account now just to follow you. That was cool.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I heard you speak last Monday.
And how did you find it?
Very good.
Really? Glad to hear it.
If you can make it all happen.
Thank you. I'm so glad to hear positive feedback.
Also wir haben 1900 wahlberechtigte Personen.
So we've got 1,900 people eligible to vote. We have a large hall that could fit around 450, 500 people. There were 600 there at the event. So you have to assume that a third of eligible voters went to see these people. And because we had Ryyan, who was basically an outsider who had to deliver an amazing performance in order to be seen and elected, and then another candidate from the village, a classic established candidate, we had this unbelievably dynamic election campaign. They both had to prove themselves, show what they could offer, show their charisma, really perform well, and that was great. People really got involved. You noticed how it built an enthusiasm for democracy. It was wonderful.
Also meine Eltern sind gerade beide Rentner.
My parents are both retired. My father was an agricultural engineer, mainly for the civil service at the Ministry of Economics. My mother was a high school teacher. She always made sure that she corrected us when it came to mastering the finest details of language, so to speak. I think that influenced my German learning a lot.
Ich würde es für mich jetzt nicht unbedingt als eine Art Zwangsstörung beschreiben.
I wouldn't necessarily say it's an obsessive-compulsive disorder, but I'm interested in learning a language to a standard in which you can function in all walks of life,
In allen möglichen Lebenslagen sehr
but also be able to speak at a refined level. If you have to, express yourself selectively, something that isn't to be underestimated if you're going into local politics.
ganz unerheblich ist.
What's that?
A complete volume of administrative rules for Baden-Württemberg.
Das spiegelt auch Stand der Digitalisierung.
It reflects the state of digitization here. I had to haul this around for 3 years while I was training as an administrative assistant.
Zum Verwaltungsfachangestellten.
Am Anfang war hier ein Praktikant mit sehr wenig Deutsch.
At the beginning, he was a trainee here and couldn't speak much German. I actually wondered if there was any point. Then the people who took him on said, yes, he's pretty good.
Verwaltungsschule nicht nehmen, weil zu wenig Deutsch konnte. Und dann habe ich dort angerufen.
The business school didn't want to take him because he didn't speak enough German. So I called them up and made it very clear to them that it wasn't their business, it was ours. We hire people and they have to train them. And if he can't speak German well enough, that's our problem. If they fail, it was time and effort and money lost, so to speak. But it's our business, not theirs. And that's how he got on. He learned so quickly and ultimately was among the top 5% of his year in the state of Baden-Württemberg. That says a lot about him. It shows we were right.
Spricht für ihn. Es zeigt, dass wir recht hatten.
Ja.
Good afternoon.
Ah, hello, Mr. Alshebl. I've asked you to come along because we're introducing the candidates. And we've commissioned a company for the broadcast, but I'd like you to be there as our IT expert. Could you manage that?
Of course, I'll be there anyway.
Good.
Ohne Clemens Götz wäre das alles, wo ich heute stehe, überhaupt nicht möglich gewesen. Sei es
Without Clemens Götz, I wouldn't be where I am today. The training and especially the incredibly strong support now and during the campaign. Without him, I wouldn't have dared take that step.
Ohne ihn hätte ich den Schritt nicht gewagt.
Er saß in seinem Büro und dann
He was sitting in his office and I came in. He said, "Mr. Götz, do you think I could stand for mayor?"
Bürgermeister.
I don't know if he said of Ostelsheim, but it was obvious. I said, "Of course."
Sagte, ob sie gewählt werden, ist die andere Frage. Aber ich habe mir gedacht,
I said, whether you get elected is another matter. But I thought, sure, he could run in Ostelsheim. Someone like that would do them good. I wasn't thinking about him being a refugee or his story. I just thought to myself, this guy is good.
So haben wir einfach gedacht, der Mann ist gut.
It says a lot about the pragmatism of the people here. They were asking, can he do the job? I think it's legitimate to ask, can someone with such a different cultural background be our mayor?
Kann der das?
So young. But, well, he has experienced a lot, more than most people would wish to experience in their lives. Can he make decisions? Yes, he's had to make different decisions than we've had to. Can we have a laugh with him? Does he have our sense of humour? Can he do administrative tasks? Yes, he can. He's learned it from the bottom up.
Let's see what you've got to offer.
Someone who's among the top 5% of their year, despite his poor starting point. He's interested, he's a good listener. That's very, very important. Hello? He's got everything you need.
Ich bin in einer wunderschönen
I grew up in a beautiful volcanic region. It's called Asueda, in the Druza Mountains, or Ryyan Mountains, which is where my name comes from. My town has 10,000 people and sits around 900 meters above sea level. A lot of apple and olive trees grow there. It's a big agricultural center. I have two brothers. I'm the second one, the middle one. Of course, from an early age, you always think that the oldest or the youngest gets preferential treatment. And you always feel disadvantaged, that you're the dumb one. I didn't like that much. I'm the kind of guy who blows up when I'm wronged. And my parents had to deal with that quite a lot. We had a lot of fights about that.
What was school like? Were you a good student?
At what you'd call my primary school, it went until the 6th grade. I was above average. And then, over the years, my academic performance declined. I got worse and worse. Until I passed high school, after 2.5 years and 3 or 4 attempts. That was a big deal.
How did your parents react?
Disappointed. They were very disappointed. Disappointment on both sides. I was rarely satisfied with myself. I'm overly self-critical. I always keep trying to reflect on whether my actions, or at least what I say, comes across the way I want it to. And of course, that's something that tortures you. This yearning or striving to always be perfect. That's what motivates me, but also drives me.
Ja. Ja, genau das.
Oh, that old smell.
Echt krass.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
6 beds.
Mein Bett war
My bed was there, I think.
So, Wahnsinn.
Amazing. I lived here for 9 months.
Jetzt fast 8 Jahren, 2000.
Almost 8 years ago, before Christmas 2015. We entered the room and saw 6 beds, all new, all prepared, and a table right in the middle.
Your whole life contained in a locker like this.
Yes, yes.
Die Stimmung war anfangs katastrophal, weil die Anwohner das Gefühl hatten, sie sind überhaupt nicht informiert.
The atmosphere at the beginning was terrible. The residents felt that they had not been informed at all that such a large shelter would be built here. And as pastor, I can remember that I tried to intervene.
Einfach mal betont habe, dass wir jetzt einfach vor der Situation
I kept saying, this situation cannot be changed, and we should all try to make these people as welcome as possible. And then I ended up supervising the refugee work with my wife and a group of people who wanted to work with asylum seekers.
der sich da dafür dann gebildet hat.
Ich erinnere mich nur an die Milkshake.
I remember the milkshake. Ryyan and Geit invited us to a milkshake, and that's my first memory, where we sat down at a table like that.
Gesessen sind und ihr habt uns dazu eingeladen.
I remember that well.
Da waren wir so in der Fünfer.
There were 5 of us, and we were trying to communicate with hand movements and in German and English.
Ja.
Es gab dann irgendwann mal islamistische Anschläge.
Then there were those Islamic attacks. Ryyan and his friends made a great effort to distance themselves from that. And we got in touch with the local newspaper.
Hier vor Ort einen Pressetermin machen konnte.
That's when we really got into more regular contact.
Richtig intensive Kontakt miteinander gehabt.
Die meisten negativen Gedanken waren eher mit
Most of the negative thoughts were connected to the situation in Syria, the feeling of helplessness. How could I hope for a new life here while the situation in my first home country was dramatically deteriorating? Again and again, you learn new things, discover new things, you improve your qualifications, and all the while things were getting dramatically worse for your parents, friends, and family. To put it somewhat dramatically, you're the one who has survived.
dramatisch formuliertes Überleben hat. Die Heimat, vor allem die Menschen, mit denen man aufwächst.
Of course, I really miss my homeland, especially the people who I grew up with. After all, I lived there for 20 years. I deeply want to somehow re-establish my connection with that place.
Eine Verbindung dorthin wieder bestehen könnte. Man braucht natürlich Glück, dass man so ein tolles, auch engagiertes.
Of course, you have to be lucky to find such a dedicated social environment where you have people you can turn to when things go wrong. It's not just the day-to-day things, but emotional problems you want to discuss and sometimes need help with. Being able to cope with that isn't just my own achievement. It's also because of the healthy support network I have. I saw big bags. Are you planning on moving back to Wimberg?
We're going to training later. We're about to go.
Stimmt.
Deswegen sind wir ja schon startklar, ja.
Only include the good shots, okay?
The problem is I don't know what a good shot is.
Then Walter Hummel, the pastor, turned up with refugees, 6 or 7 Syrians, and asked if he could bring them along. That was no problem.
That was the very first social connection I made. You get to know a society well in clubs. I valued the get-together after training more than the training itself. Although, I have to admit, they speak less German and more Swabian. But learning the dialect is also essential for day-to-day life.
What was your first thought when he said he'd stand for mayor?
My first reaction was, Ryyan, forget it. You're too young, too inexperienced. And we weren't sure if Ostelsheim was too conservative. But he was the head of our sports club. 4 years after he arrived in Germany, he was already heading the biggest department in the sports club. And he showed us, I've already designed a homepage. And we said, wow, that's really well done. And we knew Ryyan had a good chance. Of course, there were 1 or 2 instances of rejection. How dare you? But he always responded confidently, and there was never a problem.
Nach der Schule, nach dem Abitur, habe ich mich an der Uni eingeschrieben. Der Schwerpunkt des Studiums lag im Bereich.
After high school, I enrolled at university to study finance and banking management. When the war started 2.5 years later, everything turned on its head.
Da wusste man nicht, wo die Reise hingeht.
I had no idea where I was going, and gradually the security situation got worse, and I had to ask myself, what will I do now? Finally, I decided to drop out. I had been exempt from conscription because I'd been studying, but then I wasn't. At some point, I would have to join the army, but that was not an option for me. So there was this little group of 4 students. We couldn't see a future. So the threat of military draft was the main reason for us to say, that's enough. Let's leave the country. Syrians couldn't even get visas for Jordan back then. Most neighboring countries stopped issuing them. But amazingly, it was somehow possible to get to Turkey. You didn't need a visa. We booked flights and flew to Turkey. A friend of mine in the group had contact with a smuggler. We were kind of half told what would happen. And we were very uneasy. But at the time, we had no alternative. So we decided to risk it. We got into the boat shortly before midnight. It was a boat for 15, 20 people at most. But in total, there were 49 of us. That was the first scary moment. Was it safe? Of course not. But at some point, you reach the point of no return. Then we were told that we'd have to get rid of everything that wasn't absolutely essential because they had to reduce cargo weight.
Ja, ich habe auf einmal festgestellt, dass im Rucksack eben auch jede Menge Erinnerungen aus der...
I realized that the backpack I was carrying, with all my things, my reminders of home, wasn't actually that important. This was about survival. It was cold. It was a night in November, and at some point, the waves got a lot bigger.
Deutlich höher. Und gleich beginnt
the water started to flow into the boat,
hineinzufließen und ab
and you get scared.
Da bekommst du Angst. Was dir dabei
It's obvious what's going through your mind.
Klar, wie fühlt sich
What does it feel like to drown?
An? Und gleich beginnen dann
Then all the mothers and children started screaming and praying.
Zu beten. Bis man die Insel Lesbos erreicht hat.
Until we reached the island of Lesbos. I think those were the hardest moments of my life.
Die schwierigsten Zeiten des Lebens, die man bis jetzt erlebt hatte, ja.
Was macht so eine Erfahrung?
What does that kind of experience do to a person?
Im Nachhinein ist die Erfahrung...
In retrospect, I think that experience ended up being a huge help.
Weil es immer wieder hier schief gelaufen ist, also egal.
When things kept going wrong here later, in all aspects of my life, difficulties kept cropping up with accommodation, my job, and socially.
Aber immer als man sich an dieses Erlebnis
But whenever I thought about that experience, what I went through that night, everything here looks like a walk in the park.
Erlebt hatte, ist das alles hier. Kindergeburtstag. Im Normalfall bin ich nicht großer Freund von Anzügen.
I'm not usually a big fan of suits. I much prefer jeans and a white shirt.
Ja. In 10 Minuten weiß man, wie das Ergebnis war.
In 10 minutes, we'll get the results. And of course, if it goes my way, it'll be a major life change.
Der damit einhergehen wird, klar.
Also heute Abend hoffe ich natürlich für den Ryan, dass es klappt.
I hope that it works out for Ryan this evening, for Mr. Alshebl. You can see on Instagram who's following Mr. Strauss and Mr. Alshebl. It's really interesting. It's great a little place like ours is clear about what we want, where we want to go. These are two very different people. Two people who are both very suitable.
Okay, it's time now for the election result. So, to begin, the first win goes to our voters with a turnout of 68.39%. We have 2 invalid ballots and 1,359 valid ballots. Of those, 753 votes were for Mr. Ryyan Alshebl. Mr. Markus Strauss had 591 votes and Mr. Matthias Fey 15 votes. That gives Mr. Ryyan Alshebl 55.41% of the ballot.
Liebe Bürgerinnen und Bürger,
Dear citizens, it is of course difficult to say something at a moment like this, when words fail you. Ostelsheim has set an example for the whole of Germany. An example of tolerance, openness, and good cooperation. So I take my hat off to you. I'm really speechless.
I'm pretty stunned, because you always worry you're living in a bubble and are only moving in certain circles with your own people, getting a distorted picture of the world. But this is totally fantastic.
Das ist total großartig.
Life is so crazy. 7 years ago, I was in the refugee shelter. And today, I'm the mayor. It's amazing. Fantastic. Hard to describe.
قديش انت فخوره او انتم قديش فخورين باللي عملتوه انا Sie sind überglücklich.
They're overjoyed.
Sie sagt, seit meiner Kindheit war ich besonders. Ich glaube, das behauptet.
She says since I was little, I was special. I bet every mother says that. But on the other hand, she says, the incredible dedication to a welcoming culture in Germany is what made this possible.
Beigetragen, dass es auch klappt.
Die Zeit mit Ryyan hat mir vor allem viel Hoffnung gegeben. Also die Freude zu
Above all, my time with Ryyan gave me hope. The joy of seeing someone who started out with such miserable conditions and then made so much of it. To see someone who, in the beginning, was a foreigner, become someone in whom you put your hope for change. It couldn't have gone better. It's like when your child grows up, when you see young people growing up, and then you see, look, they've made something of themselves.
Das wird was, ja?
It's my first day on the job. I've not been officially sworn in yet, but I'm going to start official business today. Let's see how it goes. I think it's going to be exciting. I really hate this. Do you know how to tie a tie?
Oh no, no idea.
I think I'd better leave it. It's okay without.
Ja. Schöne Aussicht.
Nice view, with a view to the potential new village center.
Dorfzentrum. Ja, so ein paar Ecken gibt's hier.
There are a few places where some pictures will go up. Here, for example. And in that corner. Oh, that's nice. Such a nice greeting.
Herr Bürgermeister.
Mr. Mayor, how does that feel?
Hab mich auch gefragt.
I've been asking myself that too. Well, it's a totally new situation. And you have to get used to the new title.
Worauf freuen Sie sich am meisten?
What are you looking forward to most?
Also auf alles.
Everything.
Als ich mich der Wahl gestellt habe, war gleich ein großes Thema, was
When I ran for this post, one of the big issues for many residents here was why Ostelsheim doesn't have any place where people across generations can meet. There used to be lots of restaurants. Today, there are none. There's basically nowhere for people to meet.
Ort mehr, an dem sich die Menschen treffen. Wenn ich persönlich meiner Fantasie folge,
If I follow my dream, it's not a complete concept yet, but I could imagine something here that you could call a new modern village center,
Dorfzentrum nennen dürfen.
with apartments for senior citizens and meeting places for everyone. But that's a long way off. The local council has to decide on that. But personally, my inclination would be to involve the residents early so their ideas can be incorporated. It's not just about what the mayor thinks would be good or the council. I think it would be a great project.
Dass Politiker Versprechen abgeben und sie aber am Ende doch Kompromisse abschließen.
It was clear to me even before the election that politicians make promises and then end up making compromises. That's why I tried to convey this vision to people. And these visions are goals we should work on together. Hello.
Hello. Our new mayor.
Yes.
May I offer my congratulations?
Thank you.
Congratulations. I'm really pleased to have the mayor here in my salon.
Hi.
I heard you on the radio. You're being praised all over the place already.
Do you live in Ostelsheim too?
Gechingen.
We were just passing by the future village center.
When I first became self-employed, it was really nice. It was lively. There was a cafe next door, then me, then a butcher, and then up there, what's it called? One of those Edeka shops, where the council is now. A little Edeka supermarket. That was great. And now all we've got is offices. But maybe you'll change that.
Let's see.
I mean, no one can do miracles, but I'd really like it.
Würde mich freuen. Wir haben dieses Jahr eine Dame.
This year we have a lady, and we're honoring her for 10 voluntary blood donations.
Entgeltliche Blutspenden. Das ist unsere Ratskollegin.
It's our own town council member, Mrs. Putza. I'm pleased that you've come. And now for 10 donations, you get a lovely pin.
Sowohl bei 10 Mal Spenden. So. Unserem nächsten Tagesordnungspunkt wird etwas.
So next on the agenda is something a bit more interesting, I suppose. It's about the way childcare costs are being calculated differently as part of parental contributions.
Das war mir persönlich nicht ganz leicht, da eine Entscheidung.
Personally, it hasn't been easy to make a decision in this first week of office to deal with this.
Die Erkenntnis, die mich dazu bewogen hat,
what convinced me to vote in favor of raising it is the fact that we had the most significant wage increase in the history of the public sector this year.
Des öffentlichen Dienstes hatten also fast 10,5%.
Almost 10.5% more pay for kindergarten teachers. At the same time, we need to operate sustainably.
Aber wir tun es nicht sofort vollziehen, sondern wir warten bis
But it won't happen straight away. We'll wait until the end of the year. At the same time, it is not pleasant news for parents, especially since there are already some who are unhappy with the municipality's performance regarding childcare.
Gemeinde hinsichtlich Kinderbetreuung.
Yes, compromises are part of politics, and local politics. It's part of being human, making compromises.
Ich mag das Wort Integration nicht.
I don't like the word integration because it's become connected to certain clichés. It's always the idea that we have a group of people who are underdeveloped and who we want to integrate into our system. And the idea is that they learn the language, and we give them jobs like butcher, baker, or cleaner. And that's fine. I respect all of those jobs. But I don't always want to be seen in this context. You've become integrated, you've learned something useful, and now you can do a trade. No, that's not what I want. I can't do it. I have no practical skills. I see my talents elsewhere. And at some point, I decided I want to be mayor. Now, that's integration, isn't it? Or is it something else? Yes, I'm sitting in my warm office, while many residents are outside, busy getting ready for our festival tomorrow. Various local bands will be offering musical accompaniment and entertainment. And no other than the new mayor will be tapping the barrel. Tomorrow at 3 p.m. Come to Ostelsheim on Saturday or Sunday. It'll be worth it.
Are you worried about tapping the barrel?
No, I'm not.
Hold it back. And now. Harder. More. Carry on. More. Yes, that's it. Lift your hammer and shout out that the barrel's tapped.
The barrel's tapped.
Open the tap. No, it's broken.
Yeah, it's broken.
Bring glasses.
Well, obviously there's room for improvement.
You've got 8 years.
And the more often I do it, I promise it'll get better.
Cheers!